So now we're working through Test 10, Section 6, and we'll be finishing up this section on numbers 16 to 24, the somewhat longer passage of this reading section. And this begins on page 975. Whoops. Okay, so let's get started. Again, I'm not going to be able to read through the entire thing, but I will highlight the most important parts that will indicate to you the answer. So let's start with 16. Now, the general organization of the passage is best described by which of the following? We haven't read it yet, so let's leave 16 to the end. Okay. 17. The first paragraph of the passage implies that the narrator felt. Well, we go back to the first passage. This is narrator returning essentially to, seems like his hometown, or at least a town he's been to before. Here's some important parts. Line 2, and it was not disagreeable to be here and there suddenly recognized and stare after. So he's enjoying the fact that he's returned to his town, probably of birth, or at least a town he's lived in before, and that he's being recognized. He quite likes that. There's a section on 3 to 8 where he says he notices people walking past him, kind of staring at him, then pretending to turn, and just so basically pretending to turn like they had forgotten something, and then went back to get another look at him, essentially. And then there's also lines 8. Still, my position was a distinguished one, and I was not at all dissatisfied with it. So again, he's enjoying the fact that he's being looked upon, apparently with some esteem and amazement. He's kind of he likes the fact that he's being a little he's like returning to his hometown, and he's essentially a local celebrity now. At least he thinks so. So let's go to 17. So what does the first paragraph imply that the narrator felt? A. Apathetic and helpless at being a stranger? No. Distant and smug towards the town people? I would say so. He was trying to act all like he was hot stuff, come back to the town, he was enjoying the attention he was getting, and pretending that he didn't really notice it, and yeah, that would work. C. Bored and unimportant? No. He feels very important. Confused and disoriented in a busy street? Doesn't mention that anywhere. E. Nostalgic and proud on returning to his hometown? Proud, maybe. Nostalgic, not so much. So the answer here is B. 18. In context, the word progress implies that the narrator, so let's go to line 13. Casting my eyes along the street at a certain point of my progress, I beheld Trabzboy approaching. So what does progress mean here? It just means where he's going. Where is he walking to? That's it. So let's go A, B, C, D, E here and see which choice fits the best with, the direction in which he's walking. A has noble ideas concerning the future. That's progressive in some ways, or the idea of progress in terms of making things better, but that's not what we mean here. B. Intends to effect some change in the town? No. C. Thinks of his stroll as a kind of procession. Now, this doesn't work perfectly with what we're talking about, but it's good enough, right? It's this idea that he must think his walk in town is a procession, so from one point to another. That captures it pretty well. D. Was not expecting trouble from Trabzboy? Nope, not about progress. E. Is recollecting a past rise in fortune? No. Where was he doing that in that section? Nowhere. The answer here is C. And now that's maybe not the best choice. You may think it's weak, and it is, but frankly it's better than A, B, D, and E. So that's going to be our answer. 19. The phrase, that expression of countenance, refers to the narrators. Well, let's go to line 17. So we'll start with 14. Deeming that a serene and unconscious contemplation of him would best beseem me, and would be most likely to quell his evil mind, I advanced with that expression of countenance. So the expression of countenance here means his serene and unconscious contemplation of him. So what does this mean? Pretty much that he's just going to ignore him, right? A serene and unconscious contemplation. He's just kind of try to ignore him and hope he doesn't notice, and hope he doesn't arouse his attention by, doing something else. So let's go to the choices. A. Guilty conscience? No. Where's he guilty? Nowhere. B. Friendly greeting? No, he's not going to greet him friendly. Feigned indifference? That looks pretty good. D. Premonition of disaster? Nah, that's not what he's going to try to look like. E. Recognition? No, he's not trying to do that. C. So this is what the expression of countenance is, basically what he's going to act like or behave like. So the answer there is C. And I think this is an example of the language of this section is difficult, because it is a mid-19th century novel, and they use phrases that in 21st century United States or wherever you are, we wouldn't hear as much. 20. In contrast, the word visited most nearly means, let's go to line 35. So let's start with that 30. He was coming round a narrow corner, so they're talking about Trabb's boy here. His blue bag was slung over his shoulder. Honest industry beamed in his eyes. A determination to proceed to Trabb's with cheerful briskness was indicated in his gait. With a shock he became aware of me, and was severely visited as before. But this time his motion was rotatory, and blah 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 blah. So this comes from before where, this is before when he first met Trabb's boy. Trabb's boy said things like, "Help me, I'm so frightened." He was pretending to be, intimidated by this great man that was coming back to town. So this time he does something similar, where he's kind of moving around him in a circle, staggering round and round, uplifting his hands as if beseeching his mercy, just basically, mocking him for the fact that it seems like this guy, this narrator, thinks of himself very highly, and Trabb's boy is mocking him for it. So he's being severely visited as before, so he's pretending to be affected. So visited probably best means, in this case, affected by the presence of this narrator, just like he was in the first instance. So again, this is an example of where the language can be hard. So let's go back to the choices. Called on. No, that's like a literal definition of visited, but not what we need in this case. Shared an experience with? No. Resided temporarily with? Did he live with him? No. Haunted? No. Afflicted? Yeah, that means the best closest to affected, so the answer here is E. 21. The sufferings of Trabb's boy were hailed with the greatest joy because the townspeople... Well, let's go to 38. This is when he's kind of moving around, pretending to beseech his mercy. His sufferings were hailed with the greatest joy by a knot of spectators, and I felt utterly confounded. So why did they like it? Well, they probably just found it funny. They liked, it sounds like a funny scenario, right? Imagine this guy came back to your school or your town and thought he was hot stuff, and then someone was making fun of him for it. You find that funny, and that's basically what's going on here. Let's go to the choices. 21. A. The townspeople were glad to see a silly boy endure some punishment. No. The silly boy is acting out. B. They were amused by the derision the gestures implied. Yep. C. Misunderstood the meaning of the boy's behavior. No, I think they understood it quite well. D. Had always enjoyed the narrator's sense of humor. This is not about the narrator, this is about Trabb's boy. E. Delighted in the antics between two friends. They are absolutely not friends, Trabb's boy and the narrator, so B is our answer here. 22. The primary motivation behind Trabb's boy's exclamation, "Don't know ya," lines 48 and 54 to 55, is to... So let's go to that section. This is the third time Trabb's boy comes back to make fun of the narrator. And 44. He wore the blue bag in the manner of my greatcoat and was strutting along the pavement towards me on the opposite side of the street, attended by a company of delighted young friends, to whom he from time to time exclaimed, with a wave of his hand, "Don't know ya." Words cannot state the amount of aggravation and injury wreaked upon me by Trabb's boy when, passing abreast of me, he pulled up his shirt collar, retwined his side hair, stuck an arm akimbo, and smirked extravagantly by, wriggling his elbows and body, and drawling to his attendants, don't know ya, pa my soul, don't know ya." So what's going on here? He's pretty much, again, mocking the narrator for walking through town in this kind of aloof and smug manner, and pretending... pretty much calling out the fact that the narrator is walking through town pretending, to be this high and mighty guy. "Oh, I don't know you. I'm so important now." And Trabb's boy is saying things like, don't know ya," to kind of play on this idea of this aloofness and this smugness. Almost he's pretending to be the narrator, but he's explicitly saying as he's walking through the town, don't know ya," just as is the narrator, though he's not saying "don't know ya," by his kind of behavior and his appearance, is giving off this look and this appearance of aloofness and pretending not to recognize people, essentially. So that's a long thing to say, and obviously again this is a hard passage. This is probably one of the hardest ones in the book, in my opinion. So let's go to the choices. A. Remind the narrator that strangers are not welcome. No, that's weird. B. Mock the narrator's demeanor of aloofness. Yeah, so I said that word. I didn't look at the choice before that. Aloofness is just what came out. So you can see that aloofness is definitely what's going to go on here. C. Exaggerate the townspeople's desire to deny acquaintance with the narrator. No, it's the opposite. The narrator's desire to deny acquaintance with the townspeople. D. Entice the narrator to introduce himself. No. E. Arouse the sympathy of the townspeople. No. The answer here is B. 23. The narrator's presentation is most like that of so let's go say. Now this is a general question, so we at this point have read most of the passage. Let's see what works the best. A novelist commentating on an influential predecessor. Not really. It's not really a novelist commentating on a predecessor. He's telling a story about what's happening to him. B. Mechanic explaining the reason the machine broke down. No, the tone is not at all like that. C. Social commentator delivering an exhortation. No, it's not like a speech or anything. D. Scientists explaining a controversial hypothesis. No, it's not scientific. E. Writer recounting an unpleasant personal experience. Yeah, that's exactly what's going on here, right? The way the narrator is telling a story is much like a writer telling you about a horrible personal experience he had, right? That's the tone, that's the presentation, that's the way the narrative has been constructed. 24. The most pervasive comic strategy of the passage is the... Alright, let's go to the choices. So again, this is another example of a more general one. What is the most pervasive comic strategy? So what is one of the most important things that makes this passage funny, essentially, is the idea here. A. Commentary provided by the unlucky townspeople. No townspeople make any commentary, so that's not it. B. Contrast between the narrator's sense of dignity and the antics of the boy. Absolutely. C. Lack of comprehension shown in retrospect by the narrator. No, I think he comprehends fully well what's going on. D. Invocation of fate to... I don't even know where they mentioned fate, so that's definitely not it. E. Presentation of Trabb's boy as the object of the townspeople's ridicule. No, it is the narrator as Trabb's boy object of ridicule. So the answer here is B. And let's return to the number 16 at the top here. The general organization of the passage is best described by which of the following? A. A remembrance of 3 encounters that lead to ignominious... I don't know how to pronounce that. That's pretty bad. Flight. Ignominious. I think that's it. Flight. So yeah, that's it, right? The narrator is beset upon 3 times by Trabb's boy and then eventually flees the town in embarrassment. So that's good. B. An account of a loosely related series of events. No, they're very closely related. A narration that demonstrates the circular logic. No, I don't even know what that means. That makes no sense. Description of an action from several points of view. No, it's from one point of view, the narrator's. E. A progression from a state of isolation to a state of community. No. So the answer here is A. And that's it for section 6.